There are insane revelations about the Biden family's corruption coming out of the House Oversight Committee, and in a worrying reflection on the state of Western democracy, it's been totally buried by the media. The Oversight Committee is the watchdog, making sure American politicians behave ethically, which is a bit like guarding the biscuit tin at a Weight Watchers meeting. Everybody says that they're not eating them, but they're all fat and the tin is empty. It tends to only get involved when the allegations are really serious and threaten national security, which is why it investigated the rumours swirling around Joe Biden, and it found cast iron evidence of millions of dollars being wired to Biden family members from places like the Chinese government. Yeah, the Chinese government, the one that's a sworn enemy of the West. I mean, maybe they're just bribing Biden to pronounce Chinese names better.
Groundbreaking Asian Americans like Vera Wang and Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it, Shanga Kawawa. I think I pronounced it correctly. She can call me Joe Biden.
Or maybe China, which is an enemy of America and wants to end the liberal, democratic, American-led world order, has more nefarious plans. At the very least, it's a bit of a conflict of interest for Sleepy Joe. Imagine Nazi Germany sending money to Winston Churchill. You'd be like, wait a minute, Winston, what's this money for? The evidence uncovered is shocking. Here's the Oversight Committee announcing some of their findings.
The bank records show the Biden family, their associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies. Some of that money came from a Chinese company and went to Hunter Biden's company. Other transfers occurred with the help of Rob Walker, who then sent it on to different Biden family members. This is not how lawful businesses operate. Chinese nationals affiliated with the Bidens created limited liability companies in the United States and then in a short period of time transferred their interest to a Chinese company that sent money to the Bidens.
9 members of the Biden family were receiving money from overseas donors. A corrupt Romanian businessman gave the Biden family over $1 million. There's evidence that Joe Biden expected a 10% cut on a Chinese deal, and Joe Biden straight out lied about his family receiving money from China. Apparently even one of Joe Biden's grandchildren has received 6-figure wire transfers from a foreign national. Man, those are some lucky grandkids. My granddad thought he was a baller putting a $5 in a birthday card. Joe was referred to using the code name The Big Guy to try and distance him from it. Personally, I think Donald Trump is better at picking nicknames for him.
And we're leading crooked Joe Biden by a lot. A lot. The polls are showing we're 7 points up, 8 points, 9 points, and even 11 points in one instance.
And according to Senator Ron Johnson, there's evidence of Hunter Biden paying for sex with trafficked women, which is a pretty serious crime, although kind of on brand for Hunter.
You know, we have the evidence that Hunter Biden paid tens of thousands of dollars for prostitutes that were sex trafficked through an international sex trafficking ring.
Oh.
I mean, yes, ick. And President Biden, during about a 4 or 5 month period, offered to pay for about $100,000 of Hunter Biden's bills when he was spending tens of thousands of dollars on these women who are sex trafficked. Now, if that is at a minimum morally reprehensible and wrong, and the president's defending that.
Now, that might not be evidence of Joe Biden committing a crime, but he's given money to Hunter, apparently to pay for rehab, while Hunter is buying crack and using women who are the victims of sex trafficking. At the very least, that's stupid. If you want a crackhead to go to rehab, don't just give them the money and tell them to spend it on rehab. They're going to buy crack with it. And money was getting kicked back to Joe. We know this because at one point, Hunter complained that his father is taking half of everything that he's raking in. A message said, "I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. That's what Hunter told his daughter and Naomi. It's really hard, but don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. This was from when Hunter joined the board of Burisma Holdings, Ukraine's largest private gas provider, in 2014, at one time raking in more than $80,000 a month from the appointment. Why would a Ukrainian energy company be paying 80 grand a month to employ a sex-crazed, crack-addicted, third-rate attorney? Could it be that what they're really paying for is political influence with his dad? Hunter Biden denies this, but it's about as believable as an escort saying they were paid to go to dinner, not for sex afterwards. You'd think the media would have a field day with all of this, but the Liberal establishment is worried about Trump getting back in, so has circled the wagons around Biden to protect him. They think it's the lesser of two evils. Instead, they buried this story with headlines like, House Republican report finds no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. The media are spinning it as benevolent Chinese officials just mysteriously giving Biden's relatives millions of dollars for no reason other than random generosity. Wow, such nice guys. I mean, it's technically true that the money didn't go directly to Joe Biden, but that's how corruption works. You won't get Joe Biden and Xi Jinping counting the money out on the desk of the Oval Office while the world's press stands around taking photos, mainly because Joe Biden runs out of fingers and toes when he's counting to $10 million. As any FIFA executive will tell you, bribery payments have to be kept at arm's length, with shell companies owned by family members. But as James Comer, chairman of the Oversight Committee, explains, there's no reason for these shell companies to exist. There's no actual business manufacturing anything or providing a service. These shell companies exist purely to facilitate the payments to the Biden clan.
One thing everybody in this room and the American people definitely know is that the Biden family doesn't really have a business. There is no business structure around this family, except politics. And since Joe Biden has spent decades in the Senate, served 8 years as vice president, and is now president of the United States, and the family's getting money from various countries and foreign businesses through various shell companies and this web of LLCs. I mean, guys, you in the press, this is easy pickings. I'm giving you Pulitzer stuff here. Like, all you have to do is literally look at our memo and see the level of detail upon which they have created this.
It's not the first time the media have conspired to silence a politically damaging Biden scandal. In 2020, a laptop belonging to Joe Biden's crack-smoking, prostitute-romping son Hunter was abandoned at a computer shop. Unfortunately for Hunter, he loved filming his nefarious activities, so videos of him haggling with prostitutes and weighing crack cocaine were released. Not so much a smoking gun as a smoking crack pipe, but the Liberal establishment buried it. Social media companies colluded with the Democrat Party to have the story classed as disinformation, so anyone tweeting or posting about it was suspended or had the post removed, including the New York Post, one of the oldest newspapers in America. Thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter, so the truth can be told on at least one social media platform, but we shouldn't have to rely on billionaires to protect our freedoms.
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a pretty big deal. There was Twitter and others engaged in active suppression of information that was relevant to the public. That's a terrible thing that happened. That's election interference.
And as they buried the very real revelations of Hunter Biden's corruption and crack smoking, the establishment instead promoted the false allegations that Trump had colluded with Russia to rig the election. A dossier of salacious lies was compiled by someone paid by Hillary Clinton. The FBI and the liberal media pursued this as plausible, long after it had been proven to be nonsense. Even though Trump was unequivocally cleared, newspapers still write "no smoke without fire" type pieces, suggesting that something was there. And they're pursuing similar tactics now. Instead of covering the Joe Biden corruption findings, the liberal media are up in arms about Donald Trump being found responsible for goosing a woman in the 90s and giving testimony in court like he's destroying a heckler.
When you said in that video that Ms. Leeds would not be your first choice, you were referring to her physical looks, correct?
Just the overall. I look at her, I see her, I hear what she says, whatever. You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you. I'm honest when I say it. I would not have any interest in.
Of course, it's terrible that Trump did this, and his victim was so traumatized by this that she waited 30 years until right before an election to bring the case. And I'm not suggesting that the whole thing was a politically motivated stitch-up, but they did have to change the law to allow charges to be brought because they were well outside the statute of limitations. His victim was a journalist, by the way, so it's not like she's never considered how things like this can influence public opinion. Definitely not a stitch-up. And crucially, Trump wasn't getting paid by the Chinese government to grab her while he was running the country. Sorry to sound callous, but I'm more concerned by politicians taking million-dollar bribes from the West's enemies than I am about some he said, she said celebrity fanny grabbing from the last century. It comes down to this: the establishment is very worried about the next election. Trump is the Republican frontrunner and Biden looks very shaky, and not just on stairs. The idea that Joe Biden should be running for president again is ludicrous. It's not just his age, it's his complete inability to form coherent thoughts or sentences.
And turn this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelected. We cannot win this reelection. We can only reelect Donald Trump.
Is he even alive? It's like Weekend at Bernie's, Sanders. He's got historic low ratings. Instead of bridging the gap in American politics, he tacked hard to the left, jumping on every half-baked progressive idea, from appointing people purely based on the colour of their skin to pushing transitioning for children. And he's attacking white people and conservatives at every opportunity, warning us that white supremacy is around every corner waiting to grab our handbag.
So stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
Even Democrats think he's too far left. He could easily lose to Trump, and Trump has sworn revenge on the liberal establishment, so they want to do anything they can to stop him. And they still believe the lie that Trump will end democracy and implement fascism, even though they said the same thing before his first election, and he didn't do it in 4 years of presidency. So the mainstream media are closing ranks around Biden and hiding facts. But what's more damaging to democracy? Trump getting in, or the establishment conspiring to hide the truth and install their candidate? Fascism is defined as an authoritarian government with the suppression of any dissent and the co-opting of business and media into government control, which sounds exactly like what the left are doing, with the media refusing to criticise Biden and social media corporations working with the government to suppress the opposition. How can we have any faith in the mainstream media when they do this? We're in a post-truth world where journalists are presenting the story they think we should hear so that we do what they think is the right thing, instead of telling us the truth. But then we find out it's not the truth and they lose credibility. When we talk about elections being stolen in the West, we don't mean there's evidence of fake ballots. Well, not yet anyway. This is much more insidious. This is the establishment, the media, big business, the FBI, the apparatus of government, social media companies, working in concert with a political party to obfuscate the truth and persuade voters to vote a certain way. And nobody spends 50 years in politics and keeps their hands completely clean, as a 29-year-old Joe Biden explains.
Since it's clear that you're not corrupt and you got elected, why should people think that the system produces corrupt results when there you are?
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt, but thank you for that, though. The system does produce corruption, and I think implicit in the system is corruption, when in fact, whether or not you can run for public office, and it costs a great deal of money to run for the United States Senate, even from a small state like Delaware, you have to go to those people who have money. And they always want something. I'm a 29-year-old oddball. The only reason I was able to raise the money is I was able to have a national constituency to run for office. Because I was 29, I'm like the token black or the token woman. I was the token young person. I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself in the manner in which I talked about it. But what happened was they said, come back when you're 40, son.
Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and share it with a left-wing friend. And if you'd like to support me making these videos, consider becoming a Patreon. I do live new material shows and you get extra content and stuff like that. Anyway, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye-bye.